What's up, everybody? BigSweetC here with you. Got a very special live from Los Angeles. It's not really live; it's pre-recorded, but a special little vacation episode of the Another Gamer Dad podcast. This is episode number 14. As you can see, I'm not in my usual area. We are in LA, our house in LA, for a little bit. But I missed you on Saturday. I don't want to get out of this. We took like a month off. We took like a month off in July, and then in June, and then we took like a month off in July. I got like one episode out in 6 weeks, and so I don't want to get that again. And so, again, these podcasts are nice because I can do this while I'm on the road and whatnot, which kind of like I am now. So. We're back. This will be out. This will be Saturday. I think it's August 31st. I think is what day this is going to come out. Pretty close to that, something like that. Maybe September 1st, August 31st, September 1st, something like that. I hope it sounds okay. We'll see when I get into editing. Hopefully, I can make it okay. Maybe you might hear some birds outside chirping because it's a relatively nice day, so I've got the windows open. But we are in LA because we're here trying to rent the house out. Not in my studio in Las Vegas. So hopefully next episode we'll be back for that. But we're just gonna make do with what we got today. First on the agenda is I kind of want to talk about my son. Actually, this is a podcast about being a gamer dad. And my son just turned 2, August 14th. So it's been, I think it's the 27th now. So about almost 2 weeks he's been 2. And I'm not going to lie, it's got me a little nervous, because a lot of people talk about the terrible 2s. And I don't quite know what to expect because for the first year and 2 weeks, my son has been basically a complete angel. Like he doesn't whine. He's maybe whined a couple of times here and there. Like if we initially put him down, he's like, and he kind of grabs like because he doesn't want you to put him down. Or, if he's hungry, he'll, because he's still not quite talking yet, but he's getting there. We're starting to get him there. I can tell because he does say dad a lot. We just can't seem to get him to say anything else, but that's okay. We'll work on that. Part of me is kind of worried that, it's going to all break free and he's, going to be a nightmare for his age 2 year. But something actually, part of me is not worried at all because, again, he doesn't throw tantrums. He doesn't really get upset about anything. He does have this habit of throwing his toys out of his playpen, but I think that's more just so, we pay attention to him than it is because he's, throwing a tantrum or anything like that. So it should be interesting. I've heard some tales. I've heard some stories about the terrible 2s. So it makes me interested in to see how our son's going to handle it. Right now, like I said, knock on wood, he's been absolutely fantastic. Probably the best son I've ever come across, best toddler I've ever come across in my entire life. And he's pretty much ruined it for any brothers and sisters that he might have because he's, like I said, been a freaking angel for the last 2 years. And I find it hard to believe that we're going to get that lucky 2-3 times. So, he's setting a pretty high standard for any siblings he might have. Not that we won't love them. We might just not love them as much. I kid. They're my kids. I'm going to love them no matter what. I just might get more angsty with some of them than Christopher because Christopher's been the chillest dude of all time. Like I cannot express how chill my son has been compared to some of the other toddlers that I've seen. And so it's been an absolute blessing. Whoever I have to thank you for that. Because as a first-time parent, if he was a bad toddler, it probably would have been a nightmare. So, 50-50 chance he kind of goes off the deep end here as we get closer to the middle of his second year. But in all honesty, I'm just more interested how he he grows. This is according to Sigmund Freud. This is 0 to 2 is like kind of like how they develop their inner ego, right? But 2 to 3 is really where they start developing their fetishes and their quirks and their kinks and stuff like that. So, right now he's got a thing where he kind of chews on his fingers a little bit. We're trying to get rid of him to do that, stop him from doing that. He grinds his teeth from time to time. And it started as we started to try and take away his pacifier. That's a safety net right now. So it'll be interesting to see, what kind of quirks he develops. But I'm looking forward to it. Again, I'm the happiest dad alive because I couldn't have asked for a better son than Christopher, and it makes me excited for the rest of his life. But I'm not gonna lie, some of the stories that I've heard makes me wonder how it's going to be when the terrible twos actually start showing up. All right, I might close the window. The AC kicked on now. The AC kicked on, and I'm curious as to how that's going to sound there at the end. But it is what it is. My wife asked me if I wanted to close the windows, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Turns out I might have been wrong. Where are we at? It's we doing this all from the laptop, so it's still pretty new. It looks like we're only about 5-6 minutes into that one, so that was a pretty short segment. So we'll do. I feel bad I don't have anything on, but we do have BigSweetC merchandise now. There'll be a link to the store down in the description box. I've teamed up with Teespring. I think it's just Spring now, but when I originally signed up with them, it was Teespring. We've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got hoodies. You can get coffee mugs. Three different designs. We've got the title tee, we've got the iconic tee, and we've got the Another Gamer Dad podcast tee collection. They're not just tees anymore. They're collections because again, you can get T-shirt, you can get hoodie, you can get a mug. We also have now. It's only one option on the hat. It's just the iconic logo, but we've got trucker hats now too because I know a lot of you guys were asking about it. So that will be that'll be commercial number one, and I'm gonna take a swig of the old Frappuccino, and we'll get into our gaming segment. All right. For our gaming segment, I wasn't really sure what to talk about, and then we had this amazing thing happen, and that was the release of Black Myth Wukong, a new video game by a Chinese developer centered around a monkey. Now, if you haven't played this game yet, the reason this is a big thing is for months you were hearing from the woke modern audience that the game was misogynistic, it was sexist, it was racist, there wasn't enough inclusivity, there wasn't enough diversity in the game, and all this jazz. Well, lo and behold, it comes out, and in 3 days it sells 10 million plus copies, which is a fantastic little FU to the gaming journalists that don't know a hole from their ass because they don't give a shit about gaming quality whatsoever. They only care, are there LGBTQ members in there? Are there trans members in there? Can you only play as a woman, a la Star Wars Outlaws, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. How you could have a quote unquote open world adventure, but you only get the option to play as one specific character. That's not an open world game. that's not an open world game. That's not an outlaw game. Outlaws game. That is a specific Star Wars outlaw. That's basically telling another story. It looks like ass too, by the way. Even though the reviews of people that Disney paid off to like it have paid off to like it. But we're talking about Black Myth Wukong. Fantastic opening reception. 10 million plus copies in 3 days, and I mean, people are already talking about it being, game of the year. Now, I'm not about to go out and say that I think it's going to be all that. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, from the get go, has been my game of the year pick. It will be my game of the year pick. It's one of the best games I've ever played in my life. Not just this year. I'm talking ever, which is crazy because we just had Tears of the Kingdom come out. And that's probably in my top 5, top 10 greatest games of all time, too. So we've had some real bangers the last couple of years, and it's been absolutely fantastic. But the fact that Wukong sold so much in the face of all this unnecessary hate against it really speaks well to the consumer aspect of the gaming industry. In a capitalistic society, the idea is you have a product, people like it, people buy it. But we have become an anti-consumer friendly market, meaning they tell us what we like and we buy it because we're sheep. And so for us to go out and buy 10 million copies plus of this game that everybody told us was sexist, misogynistic, we should hate it, has no diversity, which is 100% untrue, by the way. But just because you can't play as a female or a transgender monkey because it's not part of the actual story. And if anybody knows anything about it, it's based off a long time Chinese mythology, Journey to the West, which my wife is a huge fan of that story. So we picked it up. We were one of the 10 million copies. It's going to be the next game that we play in line. And it comes at a perfect time, too, because, we just found out that a good friend of the show, Ghost Dave, again, condolences about your dog, homie. I know losing a pet can be like losing a family member, so my condolences to you. But he's off to bigger and better things now, so we'll have wrapped up Fallout 76 just in time to get into Black Myth Wukong. So I'm looking, even if I'm here in LA, I have it on PlayStation, so we can stream it, regardless of whether we have the whole studio behind us or not. So we'll get into that game on Thursday. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. It looks to be kind of like a Sekiro type game. Now I've heard it's got some bugs, but I believe it's a first time game developer on a game this size. I'm sure they made smaller ones for Chinese audiences before, but I from what I understand, this is the biggest game that they've ever made in their gaming history. So makes sense that there's going to be some bugs. But it looks cool, like I was saying, it looks very reminiscent of like Sekiro when you play as this monkey. My wife showed me the story of Journey to the West, and it looks pretty interesting. So I'm excited to get into it. I know my wife is excited to get into it, so it should be a good time. Because of the Fallout 76 run, I kind of want to talk about that too, just before we end this segment. I want to start off by saying, Ghost Dave, you were absolutely right. This game is 1,000% better than it was upon release. When it came out originally, my friends, a bunch of our streamers and stuff, we were super hyped. Friend of the show, John Doe, he went out, he spent, I think it was like $250 or whatever on the special edition that came with the T-51 power armor helmet. And I feel bad for him because he played it for like a day and we never played it again. It was absolute trash ass garbage when it first came out. And I mean, I hadn't played it in like 6 years or something like that. It's been a really long time since we played that game. Ghost Dave had convinced me to give it a go again, and it is infinitely better now than when it was upon release. Most notably because you can have a team leader, and regardless of what other people have done in their game, the team leader always gets to set the journey ahead. Meaning, if I go into a place, you don't have to come with me, but I go in as the team leader. So I go in and I have to make all the decisions. That way you don't have somebody who's already done it, just kind of run through and kill everybody. It sets a much more user-friendly tone, for a lack of a better term, for the players, specifically first time players. Um, it is a much better game with friends than it is playing on solo. The problem with playing it on solo, in my opinion, is the fact that it's just gigantic. It is not designed to be a solo game. And, you have these quest lines that are just forever ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. You don't level up really that fast when you're playing by yourself. Because you get bonuses and experience gained for the more people you have on your team, it's easier to gain levels that way. So it is very much focused on the multiplayer aspect, which I like because it is a multiplayer Fallout game. Um, but it does hinder the solo fact. So it was hard for me to go in between streams and grind anywhere because it just wasn't as fun as when you played with your friends. It's just better with friends. And again, it's a multiplayer Fallout game. It should be better with friends than it is playing by yourself. I do still have some issues with it. Now, most notably, there were a few times I ran into lockpicks that I wasn't able to lockpick because I didn't have a level 2 or a level 3 card yet. Now, I know Ghost Dave had told me once you reach level 50, there's a way to kind of get around all that. But we didn't even come close to, well, we kind of came close, I guess. I ended at level like 35 or 36 or something like that. So, I mean, had we played a little bit more, maybe we would have reached 50 and it would be better. But, even if you do the fast growth, if you will, right? You have the option as a new player. When you come out of the vault, you can start at level 1 or you can start at level 20. We started at level 20 and we still only got 15 levels. So we didn't even, in my opinion, like we didn't even come close to level 50. We got about halfway there. And so because the game starts off so late, so to speak, it kind of renders a lot of the early stuff basically useless. Which is another kind of thing. Like the main quest lines didn't really seem to make any difference at all. Now they still have the basic ones, right? You come out of the vault, you follow the overseer, you get wrapped up into the responders things. And then all of a sudden it kind of opens up with like the add-on stuff. So you can go to the pit for one of them. But it's different than like other main quest lines in the Fallout series. Like it reminded me a lot of Diablo. So like once you beat the game in Diablo the first time, any other character you can create, you can just go into adventure mode and you can do whatever. But the best way to level a character is to just play the main quest line. That's not the case in this. Like I tried to do most of the main quest line and it was just forever long. But again, like I was saying, I didn't seem to gain that many levels, like maybe 15 or 16. And, like for going through however many quests I mean, we must have completed at least 30, 35 quests. For us to only gain, 15, 16 levels, your whole Fallout 3 experience could be done in about 15 to 20 quests, and then you're level 30, right? And so it just seems like the more they focused on the add-ons, the more it took away from the main quest line. And so like if you're a new player, if you have people to play with and you can jump right into like the events and stuff like that, that's really where the game has become, what the game has become. Not so much like quest lines, but doing the events, right? Going and killing the Mothman or hunting down the scorched beast. That kind of stuff seems to be like its main focus. And so to me, that takes a little bit away because, one of the things that I like about Fallout the most is your story progression, right? You getting to these points where you have to make a moral decision, and that decision then affects later in the game. You don't really have that still in this one, and again, the main quest line is basically like an option at this point. You don't have to do it. And so that, nitpicky things that I enjoy from other Fallout games, like with the perks and stuff, because they're random card packs that you get up until roughly level 50. You don't really have an option of what you upgrade, right? I mean, you do because you collect these cards, But the cards are luck of the draw. So if I want to build a luck build, but I only get perception cards, then I'm pretty much forced to put all my investment into perception because those are the only cards that I have. Um, and again, you can start upgrading those cards later on in the game, and you can start flushing stuff out and building your own character, so to speak. But I don't want to wait that long. I want to build my character from scratch, and I want to start. If I want to be a luck build, I want to put 8, 9, 10 into luck before I even start looking at anything else, and the game development doesn't really give you that option. It's kind of more based on what cards you happen to come by as you go through the story. Now it does give you an option to choose a type of player, right? And it gives you a card pack that then kind of focuses around that type of player. But again, like if it doesn't match perfectly, maybe I want to do luck and perception, but the options are strength and perception or luck and charisma. Like I don't have the flexibility to create whichever type of character I like until I get to further along in the game. And I think that I think that's going to turn off new players. I don't think, and it should, because if you can't do an open world game the way you want to play it, it's not really, again, we're talking not really open world games. But the truth is, it is 1,000 times better now than it was upon its release. And I'm sure at some point, maybe when the new update comes out, maybe we'll get back into it for a little bit, see what the new update is. They are changing things around, quite significantly. Like legendary cores, I was hoarding for a long time. They're going to be worthless when the new update comes. So, now you've got a bunch of random stuff that you just have to get rid of for no other reason other than they're going to be worthless here pretty soon. But maybe getting rid of them will make it a better experience. Who we don't really know until it comes out. But kudos to Dave. It was a good suggestion. I'm glad we played it, and I'm glad it's better than it is, because as much as I despise Bethesda nowadays as a company, I love the Fallout series, and I really want it to do well. So much better than it used to be. Kudos to Dave for getting us back into it. It's crazy because we're in the valley, right? You would think it's basically the same as the desert, but it's not. And the first couple of days, I go back and forth. My allergies, my nose is always kind of a little runny because it's getting used to the new environment. I will have to take my allergy pill here in a few minutes, but we'll be able to wrap this up before we go. So, for my second break, Claritin D, sponsor your boy. I take enough of your pills. You should sponsor me. Although, had RFK Jr. been elected president, we wouldn't be able to do commercials for them anymore, which is the way it should be. You shouldn't be advertising for pharmaceutical drugs. That should be something specifically between you and your doctor. Because you advertise them and makes them look like drugs. People that don't know anything go out and buy it, and now they're hooked on your drug. And I mean, that's the point of these pharmaceutical. Let me tell you something. Pharmaceutical companies are not there to benefit your health. They're there to get you hooked on drugs so you become a lifelong patient of theirs. That's healthcare in America is not about health. It's about getting as much money out of your pocket as possible. That's why we poison our kids with the food that we eat. That's why we poison ourselves with the food that we eat. That's why it's so expensive to get organic food. And that's why every doctor says you should get 55,698 vaccines every year of your life, because it's about profit. It's not about health. It's unfortunate that RFK is not going to be the president, because he would, and he still might. He's teamed up with Donald Trump. If Trump is smart, he will bring on RFK Jr. as like his health advisor. And but hey, it is what it is. All right. Now to our sports segment of the day. It is one of my favorite times of the year. We've got, you've got baseball's getting into the thick of things. I'm actually a huge baseball fan, even though I'm talking about it a whole lot. I know I haven't really been talking about my fantasy team much because, well, it's ass. Half my team's been injured most of the season, so it was just a bad start. My number one pick, Ronald Acuna Jr. He went down 2 months into the season. Um, and a lot of my pitchers started off really hot, then they went on IR for 10 to 60 days, and now they've come back and they're mediocre at best. So I still have an outside shot at the playoff spot, and that's the craziest thing is the fact that I'm still in the playoff hunt. That's what happens when when you only have six teams in the league. But I need to. I finally won again last week after 10 straight losses. I finally got another win. I beat the team that's actually leading the league right now. He's got the best record in baseball, and I was able to somehow beat him last week. If I can continue that momentum, beat the player I'm playing this week, win my last two. There's only 3 weeks. There's this week and two more. If I can win the last three, one of the other opponents loses all three, then I make the playoffs. Because of a tiebreaker. So because my division, I'm absolutely terrible against everybody else. But in the first half of the season, I was unbeatable against the division, and that's our tiebreaker is division record. So if for some reason I can go 3-0 in these last 3 weeks, one other guy goes 0-3, and the other lady goes 1-2. Your boy will have tied with those two teams in record, and I would make it to the playoffs because of the tie-breaking method. So there is still hope. Got my fingers crossed. But the truth is, my team's not very good. I've had a terrible, terrible year. I'm about 200 points behind the next lowest scoring team in the league. I'm about 300 points ahead of everybody else in points against. So when you have that kind of discrepancy in points scored and points put on you, it's hard to be successful. So, but it is that time of year. We're starting to get into the playoff hunts in baseball. More importantly, football is on the verge of return, and so it is fantasy football draft season. I have completed 4 already. I've got 1 ongoing. It's a dynasty league, so we take a few days to do the draft, and then I've got 3 more after that. So I'll be in 8 leagues this year. I was in 10 last year. Like I was saying before, it's going to be really hard to compare this year to last year because of the success I had last year. Again, I was in 10 leagues. I made it to the finals in 5 of those 10. I won 4 of those 5 finals. I got absolutely smashed in the one final that I lost. So that was more of I was the 8th seed in an 8-team tournament, and I had 2 really really fantastic weeks to get me to the finals, and then I basically hit my average points against the team who scored the most points in the league. So it was just unfortunate that we came up short. But the others, I basically blew the rest of the competition away. I think my worst record in one of those in one of the 4 leagues that I won was I think 7-7 maybe 7-6 however many games 8-6 maybe. I think we played 14 and then 15-16 15 16 17 are the playoffs. So I had winning records in all of them. One of them I lost 2 games, but I mean I smashed everybody in the finals or everybody in the playoffs. I won by I think 21 week and then 15 in the finals. So it was pretty decisive. I started 10-0 in that league. I lost 2 and then I won the rest of the season. So, but I've completed 4 of them. I feel really good about the majority of them, to be honest with you. Now I went with a little bit different strategy. One of those 4 that I've done is in the ongoing one. They're dynasty leagues, so I drafted a bit different. I picked way more Lions team members than I should have, simply because they're dynasty teams, and I want to keep those members for as long as I can. but the redraft leagues, I do feel confident. In one league I was able to get Amon Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, and David Montgomery and Jared Goff. In this ongoing dynasty draft, I was able to get Amon Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Jared Goff. So we've got plenty of plenty of Lions to make our solid core, and then we'll fill the rest of the league out with rookies, so we can kind of like, maybe we don't win this year, but I'm looking forward to winning 2, 3, 4 championships throughout the dynasty length, and I feel really good about that. In the redraft leagues, I feel extremely good right now. In one of the drafts, I got an A+ rating from Yahoo. I've never got an A+ in a draft before. I'm projected to finish first overall in that league with a record of 12-2. And then in another league, the league I'm in with a bunch of the guys that I used to work with here at Best Buy in LA, I'm also projected to finish first. Although my wife had a really good draft as well. She did very well in that league last year. We're in 2 leagues together. I was projected to finish first in that one. In the other league, our Sin City podcast, the fantasy league, I'm projected to finish 6th. She's 5th, actually. So her and I are going to be fighting for that last playoff spot. So it should be a good time in the Harrison household. But I honestly, I feel really good about both drafts. One, obviously, because I'm projected to win. But the other, I went with what they call a hero RB strategy or a zero RB strategy, depending on what my first round pick was. In 2 of those leagues, one league I had the first overall pick, the other league I had the second overall pick, and then in the other one I had the 5th. In the 2 where I had the high draft picks, I went with the hero RB strategy. I grabbed Christian McCaffrey at first overall, and then I picked Bijan Robinson at number 2 overall. The idea behind a hero RB strategy is you take a really high running back, so first, second pick, and then you basically don't get your second running back until after you fill out 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and possibly your quarterback. In the one where I picked Christian McCaffrey, that's exactly what I did. I picked McCaffrey, Chris Olave, Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors, it was not Malik Neighbors, it was Amari Cooper. I wanted Malik Neighbors, but he was picked just before I got the opportunity. And then I grabbed Travis Kelce as my tight end, Joe Burrow in the 6th round as my quarterback. But then I was able to get our lone Lion, David Montgomery, as my second running back. So very wide receiver heavy, again, because it's PPR. Wide receivers, in my opinion, I think are becoming more valuable than mid-tier, second-tier running backs. Now, again, if you can get somebody big like Christian McCaffrey or Bijan Robinson or Breece Hall, someone who's the focal point of the offense, meaning they're going to get carries and catches, it's still very worth it to pick him really, really high. But if you're not going to get one of those 3, really, in my opinion, I think you should be looking at a couple of wide receivers and get the benefit of that point per reception, as opposed to just people who get yards on the ground. So we were able to complete it. In the Sin City Podcast League, I had the 5th overall draft pick, so I picked Amon Ra St. Brown. I went with the zero RB strategy, although I didn't complete it 100%. So we went Amon Ra, Puka Nacua, and then I grabbed Sam Laporta in the 3rd round. I took Malik Neighbors in the 4th. Now, normally, to finish out, again, the zero RB strategy, I would have picked a quarterback in the 5th round instead of, but Kenneth Walker III was available. I think he's a very good running back. By all means, Pete Carroll has already come out and said that he's going to be the guy in Seattle this year. So he should have a bigger season than he's had in his first 2. But he also went to Michigan State. He was a Spartan alum, just like myself. So a little homer pick. He fell to me in the 5th round, so I grabbed him. And then after that is when I took my quarterback, and I couldn't believe I was able to get C.J. Stroud so late in the draft. So normally I would have waited till about 7 or 8 to pick up Jared Goff, but being able to get C.J. Stroud, one of the consensus, top 5 fantasy quarterbacks in the league, that late in the draft, I had to take that opportunity. So, but again, very wide receiver heavy, focusing on getting those points per reception as opposed to yards on the ground. I'm trying to think of who my second running back was. I think it was Zamir White, the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. So another homer pick there. But again, I was able to get top 5 wide receiver, top 2-3 tight end, and in a very very high rated quarterback. So I'm very excited for that year. I won this league last year. This was one of the leagues that I won last year. The league I got the A+ in, I finished. That was the one final that I lost. I finished second. So getting A+ in this year's draft gives me hope to redeem myself this year and maybe pull out another victory. With the way the draft was able to go in the Sin City podcast draft, I'm very excited. I have high hopes to repeat as champion because, like I said, I want another ring. I know it's not here, but I want another ring. In that league, you win. Not only do you get your name put on the trophy, but you get this badass looking ring, and I want another one. So I'm super excited for the fantasy football draft. Like I said, I've still got 3 left. Another buddy of mine that I used to work with at the Best Buy here, out in Las Vegas. We've got his draft going on. I won that league last year, so I'm the defending champion. And then the 2 other leagues are with my brother. We've got the Big Money League, which we call it Big Money because it's a $100 buy-in, and then we've got the Small Money because it's only a $20 buy-in. I finished second in the Small Money League. Otherwise, I, for whatever reason, don't seem to do very well in those leagues. So, but those are more fun. Those are more just for fun because I don't really know anybody in the league. I mean, I know who they are, but I'm not really, I'm not really in touch with anybody in those leagues outside of my brother. So that's fun to play with because my brother and I talk shit to each other. So, but again, favorite sports time of the year right now, draft season, beginning of football. I've got high hopes for the Lions this year, and we'll get into like my playoff picks and everything. For the actual NFL in the next one. But really looking forward to fantasy football, everybody. If you are, again, hero zero running back strategy, if you can get within the top 5 and you can get either CMC, Breece Hall, or Bijan Robinson, I would do the hero strategy, take one of them, and then just wait, fill out your 2 wide receivers and your flex with a wide receiver, get your quarterback, get your tight end. Then worry about your second running back. That's why it's called the hero RB, because you're expecting that one guy that you pick to be basically worth 1.5 players. Then the zero RB strategy, if you can't get one of those top 3 tier players, then go with the best wide receiver available. In my opinion, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know it's a homer pick because I'm a Lions fan. But if you wanted to go with CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill, I can't fault you. Ja'Marr Chase is another good option. My friend thinks Justin Jefferson's, the best wide receiver in football. He's also a Vikings fan. But I would go with one of those guys and do the zero RB strategy. Get your 2 wide receivers, your tight end, your quarterback, your flex with another wide receiver, and then back-to-back tier 2 level running backs to fill out your starting roster. And I think you'll have a lot of success. I've found better success with that strategy than when I used to always go running back, quarterback in fantasy. So hero zero RB strategy, in my opinion, is the way to go. Oh, sounds like my son's awake right now. We're at about 40 minutes, so maybe a little shorter one just because I'm away from home. Although this cinema segment might take some time. So just before we get in there, get a little swig of the frat pat. But now that the AC's not running, reopen that, get the air flowing here. I really do love LA, and if you were to ask me where I would rather live, Los Angeles or Vegas, it's definitely LA. I love Los Angeles, but it's just it's an expensive place to live, and the liberals have gone fucking crazy with everything, and it's actually harder now to be an actual citizen than it is to be an illegal immigrant. We give them everything at the expense of ourselves, and we don't give ourselves anything in return. So it's time for new leadership. Gavin Newsom has run his course, and I don't think they are. But if Californians were smart, they would get rid of him in the next election, and they would clean house with this idea of being a completely supermajority Democratic led state, because it has run this state into the ground. There's no other way to put it except for the obscenely wealthy stay obscenely wealthy, and everybody else is kind of fending for scraps. And the truth is, they don't want my kind here. It is not beneficial for a straight white man who believes in a core nuclear family to be here anymore. They're not looking for me. So it's better that we move to Las Vegas. There's still kind of the everybody's welcome area. But again, if you were asking me which I liked better, 100% it would be I love LA. I love LA. Not gonna lie. Oh well. All right. For our final segment today, the cinema segment, I know Nico, dude. I know you keep you've asked me a couple of times to do like my top 15, movies and stuff that everybody should see. So again, we did the top 5 movies I think everybody should see in the first episode. This one's going to be slightly different. This is going to be my top 5 most influential movies in my life. The movies that made me want to make movies, what type of movies, how they've affected and changed my life in general. So top most influential films to me of all time. And they're all fairly new. Well, not really anymore. It's 2024. Most of them came out in 1999. Random coincidence. And the others came out in the 80s. So they're a little bit older now, but these are the movies that really influenced my decision making throughout my young adult to adulthood life. First and foremost, Back to the Future was the one that really got me excited about movies. I had seen the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie before Back to the Future, but like it was one of those things where like Turtles to me was great because I was watching one of my favorite comics on the big screen. But it was nothing that ever made me like, oh my God, I could do that type of stuff. Back to the Future, though, really made me feel like I could tell these stories, because you've got this normal kid like myself. He's not very popular at school, but he's got this crazy ass adult friend, Doc Brown, who gets him thrown into this incredible time traveling adventure where he meets his parents as younger people, and then he gets put in this plot where his mom starts liking him, and he's got to somehow reunite her with his father so he can then get born. And in the grand scheme of things, he actually teaches his father to be a better man, and it was the first time that I really identified with, one of the main characters in Marty McFly. It also happened to be super cool, because, you have this idea of time travel and whatnot. You've got Marty McFly going back to 1955 with his little like 80s style vest. And then he's got the James Dean hat and everything. It just a great movie that I finally understood what it meant to identify with these people, and that identification, which again, I know I always talk about like DEI and woke stuff, the woke mind virus. Identification is important. When you force it into things, that's when it becomes more about the agenda than about the actual identification of people. Take Wakanda, right? Black Panther. Black Panther was an absolutely phenomenal movie, and it was centered around a black actor. So obviously, you have a black actor play that role. Uh, Blade. Blade is a black character played by a black hero, and people, across the board, I identified with Blade. Like it was easy for me to relate to this character, even though I'm a white guy. Um, but then there's times when it's like, you have these group of people, right? You have a group of people, and the white guy is always the Chad of the group. They're just poking fun at these stereotypes. And, for a long time, it was completely reverse. I'm not going to ignore that. Now it's okay to be stereotypical of white single males, whereas we look at it as bad of being stereotypical with everybody else. You're allowed to be racist against white people, but not anybody else. But anyway, getting off topic here. But Back to the Future was the first one where I was like, yeah, that could be me up there. And then a few years later, I saw Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade for the first time, and that's really when it kicked in, right? Seeing a young Indiana Jones going out there as a Boy Scout and finding Coronado's treasure, and stealing it from these treasure hunters, and that leading into this life of adventure and treasure hunting with Indiana Jones. And it was that movie that made me want to be an actor. And since then I did a bunch of stuff for my school. I was in a bunch of like school plays and stuff. Unfortunately, I never really panned out, but that's neither here nor there. But it was that movie that made me realize that this would be something that I would really like to do with my life. So those two were like the beginning of my filmmaking career. In 1999 is when the three probably most influential films that I saw came out and really solidified that I wanted to be a storyteller filmmaker. The first one was The Sixth Sense. This idea that we're following around this character played by Bruce Willis, and he's a child psychiatrist, and he's been able to help all these kids. Just close that up again real quick. And he's been able to help all these kids, only to realize later in the movie that it's not him helping the kid, it's the kid helping him. Like the twist ending was really mind-blowing to me. It was a very different way of storytelling. Now I know, depending on whether you like M. Night Shyamalan or not, my wife and I saw Trapped a couple of weeks ago. It was okay. He's still trying to do that same motif in all of his films. It doesn't hit home as much as it did in The Sixth Sense because you expect it now. It's coming, because he hasn't really differed from that style of filmmaking. But when I saw The Sixth Sense for the first time, it was the first time I had ever seen anything like that. I hadn't been exposed to Alfred Hitchcock at that time, and so The Sixth Sense really changed my idea of what it takes to tell a story and how to tell a story. And then later that year, we saw The Matrix, right? You have this idea that life is not real, that we're all batteries for a robot city, and we're plugged into this computer program that makes us feel the way we feel or act the way we act. And everything is predetermined by this computer algorithm. And we can't break free from it because we can't open our mind to this idea of a free world. And it was the first time that I felt like a filmmaker was talking to me, right? I'm going to school. I had, when I was acting in school, I was going to Ann Arbor schools. In Ann Arbor, they take the arts, theater, music a lot more serious than they did when we moved to Saline, where I was with a bunch of people who were already predetermined to be doctors and lawyers and engineers because that's what their parents were, right? You weren't expected to think outside the norm. You weren't expected to do anything outside the box. Your dad is a doctor, you're going to be a doctor. Your mom is a lawyer, you're going to be a lawyer. That's just kind of how Celine is. I don't know if it's that way anymore, but that's definitely how it was when I was going to high school there. And so, I felt like I was being pigeonholed into this stereotype. My dad was not a construction worker; he was a contractor, right? And so, people just assume that that's what I was going to be. I was just going to be like a carpenter or something, and that's not who I was, and is not who I felt like. And so you have this movie, The Matrix, where you can break free from this mold that you're in and do whatever you want in this society. That really, really spoke to me. And it was as if the filmmakers, the Wachowskis, were telling me, hey, you don't have to subject yourself to this. You don't have to do what others do. You can break free of this mold if you put your mind to it. And then a little bit later that same year, Fight Club comes out, and boom. You want to talk about a movie and this was also one of my top 5 that people must see, because this, even though it came out in 1999, still holds weight to this very day. It speaks to people like myself, again, white males, at the time, single white males, straight white males, where we were told, you go to school, you put in the work, you work hard, you can be anything you want. Well, we come to realize when we became adults we were sold a bag of beans, right? The beans we had, Jack had come down from the beanstalk and conned us all into believing that there's a great line in that movie. We were all told that we were going to be rock stars and movie stars, and none of that is true. None of that is ever going to come to fruition. And that, at the time I saw it, and it was like, I don't want to become that. And as I've worked through my life, I've realized that I have become that. Because it honestly, it didn't matter how hard I studied. It didn't matter, how hard I worked. I was of a specific type that Hollywood just wasn't looking for anymore. We've got enough Leonardo DiCaprios. Tobey Maguire lucked out that he's got a nerdy look, so he got to be Spider-Man for a little while. But now even Spider-Man are like the Tom Hollands, right? If I was realistically going to have a chance at being a straight white actor in Hollywood today, I would have had to start my acting career when I was like 12, right? I still have an opportunity as a child, but nowadays I'm going to go in there and they're going to toss me into the white male category, and they're going to go, you know what? We need a person of color for this project. And this goes back to the DEI woke nonsense, the modern audience agenda narrative that they keep pushing. Because again, they're not looking for the right actor. They're looking for a specific actor, and I'm not what they're looking for anymore. So it didn't matter how talented I was, or how many awards I won in college. None of that mattered when I got out to LA. All that mattered was I'm a white guy, and that was it. And so Fight Club still speaks to me to this very day because of that. This bill of goods we were sold growing up, only to realize that when it was our turn to turn in that sale, poof, the salesman had already vanished and up and disappeared like a fart in the wind, and so I started looking at that movie in a different light. Now, in that movie, he's got 2 personalities, right? He's got Tyler Durden, and he's got his personality. It helped me develop that kind of thing. So now when when I'm streaming, when I'm doing this podcast, I'm BigSweetC, right? When I'm at home, I'm just Chris. I'm a loving husband with a wife and a son, and like we might talk about movies and stuff like that, but I'm not BigSweetC at home, right? Like I'm not going around making jokes all the time about random stuff or anything to that effect. Like I'm just Chris. My wife knows me as Chris, my son knows me as Chris. uh, but when I get on here, when I get on live streaming, when I get onto this podcast, when I'm in the on the Sin City podcast, I'm Sweetness. I'm BigSweetC. Cowboy Sweetness. And so it made me appreciate this idea of a double life, because it not that I'm doing it in a nefarious way, but it's allowed me to live out my dream of becoming an actor, right? Again, because this is, even though I'm coming to you from an honest heart-to-heart discussion, again, I'm still a made-up character. I'm still BigSweetC. I'm not Chris when I'm here. And so it's allowed me to live out, fulfill my dream of wanting to be an actor and creating a character and having fun with it while I'm doing this. But at the same time, also appreciate that, I have a normal family. I have a wonderful wife. I have an incredible son. We have two great places to live, and so like it allows me to appreciate what I have, but also acknowledging that I had to pave my own way, and nothing that I have received was earned. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but again, they're not looking for my type in Hollywood. Again, I could have gone out there and literally been the next Leonardo DiCaprio, but they already have one. They already have a Mark Ruffalo. They already have a Keanu Reeves. All these guys got in way, way early. Robert Downey Jr. If I was seriously going to compete with the shrinking white male actor club, I either have to look like Ryan Reynolds, or I should have started acting when I was like 10, 12 years old, right? And that's, it sucks, but it's just the way that it is. It's just the way that it is. And that's the narrative they want to push. And this is why I have a love-hate relationship with Hollywood. But again, having watched Fight Club and being able to understand why he's got the multiple personalities. He's got the one guy that's like, I did everything I was supposed to and I got fucked. And then he's got the guy that, hey, we got fucked, we should fuck him back. And that's how I learned how to create a character and still be somewhat of an actor, even though they don't want me to be that. And so those, again, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, The Sixth Sense, The Matrix, and Fight Club, those were probably the 5 most influential movies in my life. And there's a couple that I'm probably forgetting that were at one point very influential in how I viewed Hollywood and filmmaking in general. But these are the ones that really stood out to me, because as I'm writing this, these are the ones that are like, I specifically remember my feeling after watching this movie, even though it was 1985. And I didn't see Back to the Future until probably 87. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And then like the very next year, 1989, is when Indiana Jones came out. But these are the movies that I really remember watching and going, I can do that. I want to do that. I love doing this. And then the end all be all, wow, this feels like it was aimed at me type of stuff. And so those are my 5 most influential films. I highly recommend all of them to you. You should definitely check them out. I hope you guys have film, or at least some sort of art piece. It doesn't have to necessarily be a movie or a TV show, but like a song or a poem or a book or a story that you have that you've come across that you relate to, and it has somehow spoken to you in a way to change who you are as a person or affect who you are as a person, because that's the beauty of art. Now, a lot of times the accolade is a perfect example. Some people consider that art. I consider that absolute garbage. I think it was a terrible show. I watched 15 minutes of one episode and I knew it was going to be fucking punk, bodunk bullshit that should be thrown in the trash. And Disney canned it because it was the lowest rated live action Star Wars of all time. And rightfully so. It was absolute bunk. The acting was bad. The direction was bad. The writing was bad. And so it deserves to be canned. But some people look at it as art, and they bring up a point that art shouldn't necessarily be about profit. It shouldn't be. Art should be about reaching an audience and bringing some emotional attachment out in you through the use and spectacle of said art. And it doesn't matter whether it's a movie or TV show, song, poem, narrative story, whatever it happens to be. I hope you guys experience that because it can really help you in life. It can really help foster who you are and allow you to then become expressive in your own right. But that's just what I think. You let me know what you think in the comments section below. I know I stole that from Russell Brand, but I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care. That's going to wrap up this Another Gamer Dad podcast, episode number 14. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I've got, I don't know if you can see it. I've got the sun blaring right in my eye, so I keep kind of like, but hopefully this works out. Hopefully it doesn't sound too terrible. I think it'll be fine because it's about the content, not necessarily about the quality. But yeah, let me know if you guys have found a piece of art, any shape or form that has affected you personally and made you see something in yourself, or made you change your opinion of life in general. If you're in any fantasy football leagues, what's your strategy? You let me know so we can help everybody else out that happens to be fantasy football fans. Do you think Black Myth Wukong is game of the year? Haven't played it yet. I still think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like I said, one of the best games I've ever played in my life. Top 10, top 5 best games I've ever played in my life. So there's pretty much no way Black Myth is gonna be my game of the year. But let me know what you guys think. Do you have any 2-year-old experience, 2-year-old toddler experience that could help me out if Christopher starts going off the deep end? But either way, that's going to do it for this one. BigSweetC, that's me. Wishing YouTube, that's you. Wonderful day, night, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it might be. As long as you're watching, I'm wishing you a wonderful watching time. If you are having a wonderful watching time, do me that favor. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell. Notification bell is important because it does let you know when I do drop a new video or go live. Be sure to comment and share with your friends. Check down in the description box below. Join us over on Instagram or Twitter. And check out the Teespring link and see if any of that merchandise might be something that you'd like to purchase and help support the channel. Either way, that's going to do it for this one. Sweetness, signing off. Peace.